Welcome to Politics and Why with Skye Behind the Curtain. Now I'm with Kevin Orelli. He's running for re-election as the Town of Huntington Highway Superintendent. So welcome to the show.
Yeah, hi, Skye. Glad to be here. I'm the current highway superintendent. About myself and my background, I was actually an excavation and drainage contractor before I got involved in running for the highway superintendent position. So one of the things that really sparked my interest in the job was our snow plowing operation had become very lackluster, to say the least. I had a lot of experience plowing snow, and I didn't see things being done the way I thought they could be done. So that was really the first thing that made me think about, maybe I'm the right guy for the job. And by 300 votes, I won.
Every vote counts.
Right. Every vote counts. So I realized that the cleanup was probably costing us as much or more than the snowstorm. So I went to straight salt, which is what New York State does, what Suffolk County does, what the town of Babylon does. And I wound up with a much cleaner, more effective snow plowing operation.
One of the things I want to bring to your attention are these black walnut trees. Do you
Right.
have them in the town of Huntington?
Yes, we do. We do. So yeah, they have fruit on them. That the nuts are surrounded by a green ball-like structure, and they're probably the size of almost like tennis balls. So if they fall on and hit you or your car, they'll dent your car or dent your head. So yes, you have to be careful by the black walnuts.
Yes, and I was driving through the town of Oyster Bay, and a black walnut fell on my windshield and shattered my windshield.
Right. So you always have to be careful when you're driving, right? So,
well, do you think, as in your position as superintendent of highways, should we have signs like when you drive upstate New York that says beware of falling rock? Should there be signs that say beware of black walnuts?
I have not had anyone suggest that to me as of yet. So I would have to say it's probably not really necessary, but maybe in an individual case, it may have been warranted, but I would say, no, I don't think we're going to be seeing any black walnut signs soon. Okay.
But what would it take, hypothetically, for a sign to be implemented like that? And is that something that would fall under your capacity?
Yes and no. So the traffic and safety department actually decides which signs get placed where. They tell us where to, if there was, say, a no parking sign, for instance, they would determine where those signs would go. And my department actually makes the signs and installs them. But the traffic and safety department would be the one to determine if we actually need black walnut signs. So they would do a study. They would put out some kind of, device to count the cars and see how many were hit by black walnuts. And if there weren't enough cars hit by black walnuts, they probably would not decide to install a sign.
So it's a little bit of a process.
That's how it would work, right? When I first took over at the highway department, I noticed a lot of things were being done that hadn't been done differently since the 1970s. We were repairing our potholes with old equipment. I don't believe that seniority should be used as the only measure to promote someone. I think that we should be promoting people based on their initiative, their excellence in their job. And one of the things I campaigned on was recognizing excellence in the workplace. And the best way to recognize that is to promote the people who are doing the best job. Right. So because I've done that, I've had many disgruntled workers because they may have been the next guy on the list. And I understand it. If you work somewhere for 20 years and the whole process that while you were there, you were never promoted because you weren't next on the list. And then when you became the next guy on the list, and then somebody like me comes along and says, no, I'm sorry, we're not doing it that way anymore. Yes, you can understand they would be unhappy. So we do have some people who are not happy, but we also have many people have come to me and said, Mr. Orelli, before you got here, there was no incentive to excel at the job. There was no incentive to try to do a good job or be better because you just knew you couldn't get promoted because you weren't the next person on the list. And then when you were the next person on the list, it didn't matter whether you worked hard or not because you were going to get promoted because you were next on the list. So I've turned that whole that whole system upside down, because my life would have been easier, but we wouldn't be getting the quality of work that we're getting because of that.
And that's really important. That's a great
Right,
point that you bring up. That's something
right,
that you brought to the office.
right.
How many people work under you in the whole department, the highways department for the
So right
town?
now we have 151 positions. But on any given day, we're probably really working with more like 140 people altogether, because I basically reinvented was our drainage department. So we were spending a lot of time fixing sidewalks and curbs with our drainage crew rather than doing drainage work.
Mhm.
So I basically said, no, we shouldn't be doing that. You guys have to be doing drainage work. So since I've been elected, we mitigated 268 locations with additional drainage. We've installed a total of 485 drainage structures, especially dry wells. And with that, we've been able to, capture a lot of the water runoff that goes out into our harbors and bays. And I think we've probably captured millions of gallons of water over the course of a year, millions of gallons of water that are not going out into our harbors and bays because of that. So we're mitigating flood prone areas, and at the same time, we're getting some water quality points by doing the same thing. So we're getting two benefits there for that.
Now, wait, instead of going out into the harbors and bays, where does that water go then?
So then it drains into the ground. So it's filtered into the water table,
Mhm.
and that's where it ends up. So it goes through the sand in the ground and it becomes filtered. So and then every once in a while we have to go clean them out of any sediment and whatnot. But that's what happens. Yeah.
Now, just out of curiosity, did you know about this before you had this job? Because this is like an earth science topic, and I'm a big science person. Or is it something that you learned as you were doing it?
So no, this is something that I did for a living. I was an excavation and drainage contractor. That's what I've done since, I was 16 years old when I started working with my father in the business. So my father began in the excavation business in the 1950s. I took over his business in the 1980s, and I ran it till the day I got elected.
I find this fascinating, absolutely fascinating. You are the first highway superintendent I've ever spoken to on this show.
Oh, cool. All right, cool. 2018, since the first year I was in office, I've been trying to get more money for our paving program. So the way we pay for our paving program, it's not in the tax bill. So the highway department gets 90% of its money from taxes, from people paying their property tax, or
Mhm.
90 something percent. Then we get a couple of bucks from New York State in some paving money from New York State. But most of our money comes from our tax bill. When you pay your tax bill this year, you're paying for the road that was paved 15 years ago plus interest. So what they do is, instead of paying for the roads as we go, they borrow the money through the sale of municipal bonds.
Mhm.
Then they put that money in my account, and then I can spend it on paving, right? I can only spend it on paving. But we're bonding. My first year, we only bonded $2.2 million.
Mhm.
Babylon was bonding $6 million. Babylon has 2/3 the roads that we have. So they were essentially triple spending the money with 2/3 the road. So Brookhaven's a similar thing. Islip to Smithtown. Smithtown has half the roads we have, and they're spending probably as much or more money than we are. So Huntington has been very underfunded as far as the paving budget goes.
How does something like that happen? And then how does this come up? Is there ever a meeting of all the Suffolk County town highway superintendents where you get together and talk about this?
Well, them, I say, hey man, how much are you getting for paving roads this year? And Babylon's getting $10 million in bonding, and they have 2/3 of roads we have. This year we're getting 4 million. So Babylon's getting 2.5 times the amount of money to pave their roads. But then I have my opponent blaming me that I'm mismanaging the budget. That's why we can't get the roads paved, because I don't know what to do with the budget. But meanwhile, I had gone to the town board, asked them to do a voter referendum and have the voters vote on a $10 million increase for the highway department for paving. I've been championing the idea of spending more money for paving since the day I got elected. Yeah,
Kevin Orelli, it's great to get to know you. Good luck with your reelection, and
love to do that. Okay, Skye.
thank you.
It was great talking with you.